All right, we should be live.
Are we?
It says live. Okay, 5 seconds in. Okay, fire away.
And well, yeah. Welcome everyone. My name is Amos Joseph. I'm joined by my co-host Brook Potter, and this is the 10K Rum Podcast. Let's go, Brook.
It's going all right, Amos. I am exhausted, and we've just been battered by another storm that has basically flooded pretty much most of the country. And I had a very good time out in Wales, which I will probably get into a little later on.
Mm-hmm.
So all in all right. I'm looking forward to some nice sleep in my own bed, hopefully dry and warm rather than wet and cold as I've been spending myself for the last few days. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. How are you doing?
Because your office is on the ground level, right?
Yes, this office is on the ground level.
So you're just swiveling around in your chair in water right now?
No, it's not that bad. Hey, morning, Kong. Morning, Brian. Glad to have you in the chat, guys.
Things are going good. I think, I've been talking to you. I went and got a new car.
Did you now?
Yes, I will be driving a Ford Focus. The car that I had that was a beater completely just crapped out on me, and through a series of events, came around to getting this car. But then in the meantime, I'm driving a loaner from the dealership because the car they had, so it's a used car.
Yes.
Had a little body damage that they have to touch up before they give it to me. So I'm driving a Hyundai Sonata at the moment, which is
that's a nice car.
It's a nicer car.
Fancy.
Yeah. That's what's going on here. Otherwise, there's not too much going on. I know you and I have been a little bit. I mean, we keep in touch pretty well, but you were pretty busy in Wales, so I'm a little interested to hear what you're willing to share on the stream.
Yeah. Wales was a good time. We definitely got to do a raw takes about Wales. Conk, I'd imagine you're over 6 feet. Fitting in a Ford Focus might be difficult for you. So, but yeah, getting back to Wales. So for those of you who may or may not know, I'm probably going to be moving out to Wales in July of this year, if not before. And I just caught a whim. I'm closing down my business out here in Essex, and I've got nothing but time. So a couple of things that I want to bang out. One, I want to get my driver's license finally. So I got to do a couple lessons and then book the test. So I'll get that done, I think, probably before I go out to Trinidad in March. And I said, all right, well, the only place I know in Wales is Newport, where my uncle lives. Sorry, not Newport, Newtown, which is more north. It's kind of mid Wales. And quiet town, nothing going on, very Sleepyville sort of thing. Really nice place. But my uncle he himself told me that, Brooke, you're kind of a young man, you like a little partying, you like, the girls and the drinking and the drugs and the sex rock and roll sort of lifestyle. You don't really want to be in Newport. You want to be somewhere closer to the action. So I'm looking at the map and I don't know anywhere in Wales. I don't know the country that well. So I kind of narrowed it down. I said, okay, well, I need access to London because I still have to fly out to Trinidad at least once a year. And the cheapest flight goes from Gatwick Airport in London. And I want it to be relatively affordable, so the major access points are Cardiff, which is the capital of Wales, and Newport. Newport tends to be the first stop, and then it's like 10, 15 minutes off Cardiff. So Newport is the closest to London. And Bristol is the city just across the bay, which is also a good place for work and other things like that. So a lot of people live in Newport and they, commute. So, right, I picked myself up Wednesday of this week gone, and I just decided I'm just going to go out for a couple days to Cardiff and knock about, check the place out, see what's going on, see what's the limelight, what's the nightlife.
Did you
the drinks.
Stay at a hotel?
No, I didn't have enough points to get a hotel. And Cardiff, it is the capital city of Wales. I generally, at my price point, I didn't want to spend a lot of money on accommodations. I wanted to spend it on entertainment. So I got an Airbnb.
Entertainment. Right?
Yes, entertainment. And there was a lot of entertaining. So the Airbnb, it was not a great area, I must admit. When I got there, I was kind of like, oh, I'm in the ghetto. It's like this is not good. This is not good. But I didn't have any problems or anything like that. It was all good. I was only there for 4 or 5 days total. And as I do in usual custom, when I first get somewhere, I like to do a little walkabout just to kind of see what's in the area. I found a grocery store nearby. I picked up a 24 pack of eggs for about £3. It's about £2 cheaper than what I pay in London. So I had basically 6 eggs for the last 5 days for breakfast. And I got a little cheese and butter and other things. I was like, wow, that's really good savings, what else did I? Well, and the main hub, the St. Mary's Street, which is kind of the party place. You got the clubs, the bars, the strip clubs, and all that kind of stuff. That was like 10 minutes away by I could walk to it. Everything within the city was in walking distance. So that first couple of days, I just spent walking around, doing the tourist thing. Went down to the marina, went down to all the coffee shops. Oh, and the first night I got there, I don't know if I told you this or not. I signed up for the speed dating for the singles night. Did I tell you this?
No, you didn't. So I could go to a place. It's like the 30 seconds or a minute or whatever, and you just
Well, I mean, to be fair, what it is, a friend of mine signed me up for it. I'm not going to call his name because I don't want to implicate it. He's just like, I'm putting you on for this event. You got to be at this place, this time, dressed like this. Trust me, you're going to have a good time.
Do I know who this is?
No, I don't think you know. He's a guy out here. It's a guy out here.
Okay.
Right. So really cool guy. I have to pay him back in kind because I didn't know what I was doing. I thought it's probably like a cooking class or something, learn to cook some Thai food or some shit. So anyway, it's a speed dating, 30 to 40 years old. And how many? It was like 12 women and 12 men or whatever. And the son of a bitch went and signed me up as a woman. So it didn't help the organizers very much. But yeah, anyway, so we did the whole thing. So I get there. I've never done speed dating before. And it's like, look, I don't know anything about this. I'm probably not going to see these people ever again. So I was determined to have a really good time and just ask like some really fucked up questions. I did not give a shit.
What?
Yeah, well, I'll get to it. So I get out there, and I mean, there's some beautiful women, absolutely stunning. I mean, there is a lot of plastic surgery and a lot of that kind of Essex look, kind of out there. The big lips and all that kind of stuff. So there were a couple of ladies, done up. There was like a coven of nurses that came in. There were like 5 nurses. Obviously, they all work together, and they just said, "Oh, that's fun. Let's go and do this and stuff like that." And just odd scatterings and stuff like that. One Asian woman there, she was from China, living in England now for over 12 years, divorced with a kid. A bit of a language barrier, so she did not understand English. So I really couldn't get into it. So,
so she wasn't like a refugee with the coronavirus.
No, but I have to say, well, I'll get to that as well. But as I was walking around, I was like, there's a very good chance that if one of these Chinese tourists here has the coronavirus, and I might be dead in a couple of weeks. But we'll get to that. So anyway, so I sit down to basically what was the hottest girl in the beginning. Like I just sat down at her table, and I mean, I know she's not going to be interested in me. I'm too short. This is obviously one of the, this is one of those 9s and 10s that's community property. She's probably. Yeah. Anyway, let me not degrade the woman.
She's the village bike because everybody gets a ride.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but she's definitely class. She's up there. She's a very attractive woman. So I know she's not looking for me. So I'm having the conversation with her like, "Hi, how you doing?" What she's gonna ask. So I start off like, "Well, we got 5 minutes, to become good friends." So instantly friend zone, right? I do that immediately, and then I say, "Tell me a secret." Something that nobody else knows. You'll probably never see me again, and I promise I won't repeat it. And that would get them thinking that's not something that people know about. And ironically, this is actually a dating technique, and you could probably use this if ever. Women bond through gossip and secrets. So when they share a secret with somebody else, it espouses a form of trust. Their brain is going to justify it, like I can trust this person. Mm-hmm. So when you ask them for a secret, the biology just starts to trigger. So you instantly begin to trigger trust. And I mean, she really couldn't give me a thing. So I stepped it up. I said, okay, what's the craziest thing that you've ever done? And she's like, well, I don't know. And I was like, this bitch is being really difficult. So I said, all right, let me make it easy for you. Where's the craziest place you've had sex? And she gives me a story, which was very public in the middle of a crowd. Not yet. And yeah, I wouldn't get into too much when she, of course that happened many years ago. It probably could fucking happen last week, but that was what she said. And she was completely taken back by it. And I said, okay, well, married, no kids? She's like, no. And I spin around and be like, what the fuck's wrong with you then? Like, why are you single? You're like one of the hottest women here. Are you nuts? Are you crazy? And she laughed like she could not believe, that I was talking to her like that. And she was completely taken back. This little midget of a man, this manlet that's giving her shit. But I think she had a really good time. She enjoyed my company. She was shocked. She did not expect that. And those were kind of my standard go-to questions over the course of the night. And as I said, except for the Asian woman, because there's a language barrier. But yeah, there was one woman that I came up to. She was a little older, and she was a little concerned, of how she looked. Massive tits, great fucking tits. And she was wearing a low-cut blouse, and she kept on leaning on the table, and just like bazumbas up in your face and shit, like you couldn't breathe. But she wasn't. She was like, I'm not the prettiest woman out here, and whatever. I was like, let me let you in on a little secret. Men don't give a shit, right? As long as you've got all the parts in the right places and they're working, they're not entirely. You don't have to be the best-looking woman. Have some confidence in what you do have. Work your strengths. You'll be all right. And I asked her the same questions. Where's the craziest place that you've had sex? And she's like, oh my God, I was hoping I'd meet somebody like you that, it's just like cut through the shit, get to the point. Like, this is where we're at. So it wasn't quite mode 1, but it was close. It was close. If I had more time, because I only had 5 minutes and you got to escalate quickly. So that was my first night out there. And I was talking to the guys afterwards. Like I get there, the guys are on one side, the women are on one side. I go, fellas, like, what's going on? Everybody good? You guys ready for this? Let's do this. And then I went and chatted. I was chatting up the women before we even started. Like, how's it going, ladies? Y'all ready for this? You've done this before. And so I was definitely like controlling the room, right? And the guys would come up to me and tell me their stories of dating and stuff like that. And I'll be like, what the fuck are you doing? No, don't do that. You got to do this. And if she does that, no, don't do that, man. You got, and I was like coaching and shit in the middle of the dating session. So great night. I met a lot of great girls, a lot of great guys. So I got some contacts, I said I might be moving out here. I'm looking to make friends. I need, some alpha guys kind of thing. So that was really good. Ended up at a strip joint, and I wouldn't say how much money I dropped on that, but ended up in the champagne room for free. Because they just liked me that much. And it got spicy. It got pretty fucking spicy, so that was night 1. So that was good. So the rest of the time, so I had 4 more days, the rest of the time, a lot of tourist stuff. There is Cardiff Castle, which is what, it's a fantastic, it's the, very proud. The people of Cardiff are very proud about this castle. It's right in the city. I did a full day, well, not a full day, like a 2-hour tour of that. The old building, a part of the old defensive wall was actually turned into a bunker during the Second World War. A lot of the foundations, I think, go back to like the Roman era and all kinds of stuff. Really, really interesting stuff. So I did that. One day I got a 4-hour tour with a local. He's a great guy. I wouldn't say his name because so he's a local guy. He lives in Cardiff, and he does a lot of these types of events. Like if international people want to come, he let him stay at his house. He's got this great place, and he's always doing socials and this, that, and the other, and whatever. And he and I had a great time. I don't think we lasted the full 4 hours, maybe like 3.5 or something. But he was telling me like, okay, if you move here, this is what you need to see. This is the market, transport. This is how it works. And give me like the inside information. Really good guy. Really grateful to him. And then the last person I met out there was one of my fellow traders. He went to the same one of trading to. We talked many moons ago about if I came out to Cardiff to meet up. We lost touch, reconnected, and we had a blast last night. He and I went out. So about 4 o'clock. I didn't get home until 9. And we were just hanging out, having some drinks. We went out for a great steak dinner. Just, long lost brother. And I was like, these are the type of people that I need to be around. And one last story I'll share on that. I did make it out to Newport, and I think Newport is probably, or at least around Newport is where I'm going to end up. It's cheaper than the city. Kind of like where I'm at now in North London, well, in Essex. I have access to London if I got to get into London. It's easy access, but it's cheaper because it's not London. So I'm probably going to try and find something very similar to that. Now I come out to Cardiff. I come out to Newport. And, I'm kind of talking to the universe, like, looking for signs, like, is this for me? Is this where I'm supposed to be? Whatever. And as I'm coming in on the train, I pass this place called the Potters, right?
Of course.
Yeah, it's like the Potters. I was like, wait a minute. I mean, I see that literally as I'm having this internal dialogue, and stuff like that. It's like, oh, that's really funny. That's really funny. And so anyway, I get into the place and whatever. And I kind of think to myself, like, that's a common name. I wonder if they have my first name somewhere. Maybe I'll see that, And to give that, to end that story, I didn't see it in Cardiff, in Newtown. But when I went back to my Airbnb and I was walking up from a different direction, the street that was just parallel to me was Brook Street. And there was a big sign saying apartments for sale on Brook Street. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. So anyway, in Newtown now, when I was there, went to the Potters and figured, well, this is my jam. This is where I've got to be, And I got in there. It was great. I got in there, live music, very cute girl that was singing. Her kid was there. Obviously, she's got a partner and what have you. I was able to order all the meat that I could desire. There was, they literally, you could do the burger. And they said the price. If you want extra patties, it was like £2. And I was like, shit, well, I want 3 patties then, just keep the bun, bacon, cheese, 3 patties, I'm good. And I got that plus I think some halloumi chips, halloumi fries, like, it looks like fries. And I got a rum and coke, and that was like £17. If I were to buy that in London, it would have been nothing less than £25. And I'm looking at this like I kept reaching for more money because I always expect to pay more. So we went to another shop and I'm buying a water and an umbrella and a couple other things, and it's like I'm reaching for a tenner and he's like, oh, it's like $2.50. It's like, fuck, this is ridiculous.
Right.
So long and short of the story, it was absolutely fantastic. Those are all the kosher parts of my trip. There were some unkosher parts of my trip with some girls. One of them happened to share my middle name, which was another sign. So I saw my full name. I saw Brooke, I saw my middle name, and I saw Potter. And this girl had my middle name, and I'm talking to her and stuff. I think I sent you some pictures of her.
Oh, that person.
Yes.
Wow.
She looks like something out of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. She kind of looks like that chick. At least she was top heavy. let's say that.
Yeah.
yeah. For one of a better. I mean, she's going for an exhibitionist type thing. She probably has an Instagram where that's her fetish. Huge, like dangerously huge tits.
Probably has an OnlyFans.
Yeah, probably. So all in all, it was a good trip. I got a job offer. Might be taking that up. So I got a lot to think about in the next couple of weeks, but it was definitely worth it. Yeah, I got one of the guys in the Potters, actually. Well, these 2 guys came in. I wouldn't say their names. And we just kind of shooting the shit at the bar. I was charging my phone at the bar. So I was like literally in the corner. And these 2 guys came up and we're having a conversation. This really hot girl comes up next to the other guy. And he's like, I love her. I said, well, did you tell her? Like, don't tell me, tell her, right? Just turn around now and tell her that you love her. And he did. He turned around and he said, I love you. And she's like, what? It's like, I just love you. And anyway, they got into this whole conversation. Then, they went off and fucked or whatever they did, right? so I was left with the other guy. And he and I were having some drinks, was drinking some Guinness. and he likes to party. He's a guy, we started hanging out. He started bringing shots. It was tequila. It was Guinness, rum and Coke. No, I went, I was pacing myself because I knew it was a long trip. I got to have more drinking to do. This guy totally fucked up that program. He was trying to get me drunk. At one point, I think he handed me like a small packet of Coke, and I'm like, oh wow, this is really generous out here, man. You don't fucking know me. And anyway, so he's doing all that, and I wouldn't give away, but he does actually have a legitimate job, and he said they're looking to take on some people. It makes good money. You can make between 100 to 500 pounds a day in that particular job, which is that's really, yeah. I mean, the minimum wage out here is just about 100 pounds a day. So if you can make 5 times that, that's really, really good. So I have his number. We're going to keep in touch when I get out there. If he's serious, if I could actually do the job and keep myself from partying hard with these guys and not die, I might take that up. So we'll see. I will let everybody know.
You can't say what type of job it is, or even.
No, I don't want to implicate. Because I did say he handed me Coke, so which I didn't use. Coke is not my thing. I got rid of it the next day, but yeah.
Could have sold it, no.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I hope that's what. And some other shit. I don't fucking know.
Man. Yeah, and then so that was only the second night I think you told me about.
That's probably was it the second night I went out to one of those nights? It was the Friday. So I arrived on the Wednesday. Yeah, it was Valentine's Day then. Yes, it was. So I arrived on the Wednesday. That was the dating night. The Thursday, the tourist stuff, walking around the city and stuff like that, meeting some people, meeting some girls and stuff. Friday was Newport and the castle. Saturday, got up late. I did the walkabout tour with the guy for 4 hours. And then I met up with my trader friend in the afternoon, and we closed it up at 9. And I got up this morning, Sunday, 8 a.m., got on the bus by 9:30. And as I said, we have a storm out here right now. And when I got there, my bus was at 10, but he's like, no, get on whatever bus you can, because there's a good chance that the river running through the city is going to overflow, and they're going to have to move the bus station, and you may not get on. So I was like, well, fuck this, man. Put me on whatever you can, So I'm glad to say I'm back home, safe. It's not raining in the Abbey at the moment. Nobody I know is flooded out. So yeah, all in all, good trip. Yeah,
it sure was. There's definitely some things you're leaving out for the audience.
There's a lot I'm leaving out, but yes, family friendly.
See, oh, okay. Okay, huh. So what else is going on in the UK, Brook?
What else is going on in the UK? Well, as I say, we've had 2 storms recently. I don't know what this one is called. We've also recently lost, I think, our Chancellor of the Exchequer. God, no, I can't remember his name. It was a guy called Javid. He was a conservative. He and Boris apparently had some falling out. He had some major position. I don't know what it was falling out about, but I suspect the Conservative Party in the last election won a lot of what would be considered Labour or like Democrat seats, right?
Right.
They won in those areas. People kind of lent the Conservatives their vote because, they didn't particularly like what the opposition was offering. So I think in some ways, the Conservative Party is usually low tax. They're trying to, spending and all these other things. But there are areas where they're trying to boost spending and consider, raising some taxes. And I think Boris is trying to balance that conservative and Labour position. He's trying to be faithful to the conservative sectors, the counties and stuff like that, where that was strong for him, but also trying to appeal to the North and a lot of the more Labour areas by, saying we're going to spend more money up there, sort of thing.
Right. Now, question for you.
Sure.
Is the NHS as sacred as like the Americans see the Social Security?
It's probably as religious as the American football. Yes, it is. It
No, I'm
is the
saying in
church
terms
of
of
the
a
NHS.
in terms of a government program is what I'm
Oh
saying.
yeah. It is the third rail of politics for us would be the NHS, right? It is a religion. It is literally a religion. Everybody
Because
repeats the same
I'm thinking,
mantras.
what would happen? Okay, so if someone proposed the NHS to be, let's say, just ended, versus if would that be comparable to in the States if they said Social Security is no longer a thing,
Yes.
or would it be worse? Do you think?
It might be worse, actually. It is a really. I don't think Americans are religious about Social Security.
Yeah, it's just more of like it's a part of life. You kind of think about it, but I guess it's not like we're not
No, it's not
entirely
religious.
devoted. Like there's so many other options, like your IRAs, 401ks, and stuff like that that people go
Retirement sort
to.
of thing. Correct.
Right. Excuse me. Okay. No, I was just curious about that because I'm thinking like your left and your right both still believe in the NHS.
Socialized medicine, yeah, in the NHS.
Yeah, and it's like it's tough to really.
I mean, to give you an example of how much the British love the NHS, the opening ceremony of 2012 for the Olympics, maybe I have the year wrong, whatever year recently that
It was
the
2012.
Olympics, yeah, I think it was 2012. They put in the opening ceremony, they had James Bond, they had Mary, I don't know if they had Mary Poppins, but Mary Poppins was also considered English. They had a giant Voldemort for Harry Potter. They did all of the English tropes. They had oh God, what's that shag guy? Can't remember his name. Austin Powers.
Mm-hmm.
You had all of the English tropes, and in the middle of the arena, at some point, there was a big flash, a giant circle with the NHS. And it was included in the opening ceremony of the Olympics.
Jesus Christ.
That's fucking religious. That's absolute nonsense. And you can tell these people have no fucking clue because they've never experienced healthcare in any other country. So they've been indoctrinated since they've been small that this is the greatest healthcare system in the world. And when I spin around and be like, really? Then how come no other country in the world has adopted the NHS system? They all have universal coverage, but then nobody's doing what the NHS is doing. Like, why would this be the best system in the world? In fact, colonies like Singapore, which had the NHS, got rid of it. They got rid of the greatest system in the world. Why do you think that is? That's when I get stoned for blasphemy.
I was listening to the recent Joe Rogan. He had this woman, Melissa Chen. I didn't know who she was, but I was like, okay, Chinese person. So I listened.
She looks cute, I'm sure.
I mean, you know me with the Asian woman. It's kind of hit or miss.
I know you're
racist.
racist.
I'm racist. Yes, it depends. It really depends. No, she was. I guess she does some like nonprofit where they help translate books into Arabic to sort of bring a lot of like Western literature and just obviously what is considered to be controversial literature in the Middle East.
Yes.
Bring it to them. So I thought, okay, that's kind of cool. But then they got into some topics where they were talking about things with Hong Kong, with Singapore, with China. And one of the things with Singapore, which is really interesting, is like it's a really weird country. Like there's a lot of policies and stuff they enact there that make it very different. It's they talked about kind of like how they there's no minimum wage.
Yes.
And according to, maybe your more Western, like American kind of economist, it would be considered an overemployed society. So they don't have unemployment. They have overemployment.
Cool.
So basically I think it's like when you have such a low unemployment, it's considered overemployed.
Yeah, like basically zero.
Yeah. It's like, because you're always going to have people in transition between jobs.
Correct. And you have young people entering the workforce all the time. It takes them a while to get jobs and stuff. So you never hit zero.
Yeah, but it was just funny. Like, Rogan's like, what? No minimum wage? Doesn't that people just get taken advantage of? She's, no. Like,
Switzerland doesn't have a minimum wage, nor does Norway.
and but then there were some other interesting aspects, like they have a sense of forced integration.
Yes, in Singapore, definitely.
Yeah, so like your apartment buildings, your living situation is always going to be reflective of the demographic of the country. So if it's like if this was done in the States, every apartment building would have to have, you know, depending upon when your numbers, 13 to 15% black, 1% Asian, and then the rest white, and maybe what is like 5% Mexican or something. You would have that mix.
Yeah, sure.
To basically, so that it's reflective of the world, of the society, and you just people aren't really allowed to segregate.
Right.
So it kind of, and I'm like, that's weird. Like, what's that going to do? Anyways, so it's just a lot of interesting things, and shit. What was I going? Oh yeah, basically, it was just another way of like, it's like, it's funny, like one of these former colonies kind of doing their own thing. It's like
they are doing their own thing.
Well, yeah, you got Hong Kong, you've got Singapore, you've got was Macau part of the UK?
I think Macau might have been French or something, or Portuguese.
But it's just so it's funny. You see, if it's the greatest healthcare system in the world, how come all the former colonies don't adopt it?
Exactly.
The U.S. doesn't do it. There's no colonies. Canada, well, even Canada hasn't screwed it up that bad.
It's not the NHS system. They do universal coverage, but it's not.
But it's funny. Even the former colonies that have adopted a universal healthcare system still haven't fucked it up as bad as the NHS.
Correct.
Like Canada has huge problems. Like Canada is a good example of how not to do it, but it's still better than the NHS.
Yeah. And in many ways it is. New Zealand might be the closest. Finland, their healthcare system seems to be on the verge of collapse. God help us if the coronavirus ever makes it out here, because then we're really in trouble.
It's not called the coronavirus anymore.
Right. But somebody was telling me. I think maybe you were telling me that it's what is it now?
COVID-19 is what the WHO has named it. COVID-19. I'm guessing COV means coronavirus.
Yeah.
And then D, I don't know what the D is, but
like designation 19 or whatever.
Yeah, and then so people, if you really look into it, I mean, I'm sure someone's going to be like, "Oh, conspiracy theory, there's it's the 19th coronavirus." It's like, well, coronaviruses have existed for a while.
Yes, it's the flu, right? That's what it is. You get one every month.
You heard about the cruises in Japan, the Japanese cruises that are quarantined right now?
I knew a few of them were. I didn't know they were in Japan.
So they're stuck out there, and a lot of companies around the world have been basically kind of stepping in to offer them to try to alleviate sort of the situation. Like they're getting food. They're definitely fine out there, but it's just they're stuck out there. They're isolated on these cruise ships out in the ocean, waiting. Some of them are people who are getting really sick are getting taken away from those ships, but for the most part, it's like they're just stuck out there. Right. I think I heard someone say like some porno company like offered them like free porn to help them, deal with the isolation. Apple stepped in and gave out free iPhones.
Cool, that's good.
But it was hilarious. Like I told someone, I was like, the only place that you really don't want to be where the coronavirus is in China. Like anywhere else in the world, for the most part, any Western world or just first world countries like Japan. It's a bad flu. It's basically a bad flu that maybe brings on pneumonia because that's part of the name now. It's part of its symptoms. It's a virus that brings upon a respiratory infection that could lead to pneumonia or just a really bad flu. So if you're healthy enough, you get a bad flu, you get free porn and a free iPhone. And I'm like, that's not that bad of a deal.
That's not a bad deal at all. As long as you live.
Well, yeah. I mean, it seems the death rate is. If you're in the Western world, like you're 99% sure you're going to live.
Yeah, it seems like we've had 8 cases, maybe 9 cases in the UK, 8 of which have been treated in the NHS. I don't know where the special facility is, and they've been released. They're actually recovered fine. One, I think probably still being treated.
Right.
Yeah, so it will probably affect the elderly and the young most of all. I know that the doctor in Wuhan, he was 35 and he died. So that was something. But yeah, we'll see.
Right. Yeah, it's, I have no concerns of it coming here. Like, I'm checking and making sure it's not coming here, but it's not coming to Minnesota.
Well, hopefully not. I mean, when I was walking around Cardiff, there were a lot of Chinese tourists. And that thought did cross my mind. And one of them started coughing, and I just kind of slowly started moving away. You know, for those of us listening on the live stream, I'm kind of like creeping off to the right. But yeah, that thought did cross my mind because the major tourist hubs of London, Cardiff again, it is a tourist hub. I'm probably Edinburgh, maybe Belfast, Dublin. All of the capital cities are the hotspots for these locations. So one of the British guys, he caught it in Singapore, and then he went to a conference in Switzerland and brought it back to the UK, right? And obviously they had to contact everybody at the conference and all of these other different types of things and whatever. So yeah, they're just knocking about. And with all of the people that pass through London and the underground and all this other stuff, and yeah, it's just a breeding ground for viruses.
About those Japanese infected in the cruises, what they were saying, I was talking to some people about this. It's hilarious. They're like, yeah, apparently they're taking these infected patients to Fukushima, and then the guy's like, do we really want to make this disease radioactive? Like, have it mutate and shit?
You want to add radiation to this shit? Oh no, that's not good. That's not.
And I'm
good.
like, we're like, of course it's probably fine, but it's just funny, like.
Yeah, that's not the smartest move I've heard of. But I mean, I did hear that there was an explosion in Wuhan, maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Have you seen the videos of that hospital they built?
Yes. While it was being built or since it's been built?
It's been built, and it's fucking shit.
Well, of course it is. It was a publicity stunt.
Yes, there's like people have gotten footage on the inside. It's got like exposed utilities, leaking ceilings.
Yeah.
Like it's holding. Like I saw a video and it was like when you try to build. It was like a TikTok video. Like when you try to build a hospital in 10 days. Yeah. This happens, and I was almost like expecting like someone to get footage of like a ceiling collapse or something.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. It was just. Yeah. Really, really bad, like just planning. Like they just literally threw it together, getting the basics in there, and it's a big, shitty, like,
It's just a huge holding room. Apparently, they don't really have anything in it. So I think.
Yeah, and that's.
Everybody kind of says they're just going to ship the sick there and let them die. That's kind of what.
People have recovered from there. That's the thing. It's just if you're keeping a decent sense of hygiene and you're healthy enough, you're going to be fine. But China, China has such a huge disparity between the healthy and the unhealthy.
Yes.
And I keep seeing videos that people are posting of like, these Chinese are crazy. They're eating bats, snakes, lizards, and all this stuff. And it's like, and I'll see just random, like, I can kind of see now there is a little bit of the like, ignorance that people have about Chinese culture. Right. So they'll be posting, obviously the bat soup, the crazy like raw foods, the eating just raw things. Like I get that. That's like, okay, that's for sure. Like you guys are just asking for it with this coronavirus.
Yes.
But then you'll see like, where people are like actually cooking food.
Yeah.
Granted, exotic food, but actually cooking it. And then people post that too, and I'm like, no, that's like
not the same. That's not the same.
When you're cooking it, okay. Granted, if it's like if you find it in an open market and they're cooking it there, and like a wet market, I get that. But it's like,
yeah.
Just posting anything China related with food is not going to be accurate. I think someone posted one. Someone just dropped one. It was this. I think he's like some Chinese YouTuber. He's this kid. Has some rare condition that makes him look really, really fat.
Okay.
But like he just has the pudgiest face you've ever seen. But he does these like live streams or videos, kind of like that mukbang thing. Have you seen those?
I don't think so.
What it is, it's just videos of people like eating like very extravagant like meals and stuff. Like
okay.
It was like this Korean thing, and they kind of have variations of it. Anyways, this kid just has a lot of like Chinese food from like dumplings, soup, noodles, and whatever. And he's eating it. He's talking about all whatever going on. Like, this is, we got this, we got this, we got this. And he like just chows down. And people are like, oh, this kid's, he's a fat ass. He's eating all this. But you look into it and it's like, no, this kid has a condition. He's not actually like, probably is not eating the healthiest, but his condition is not.
It's not helping.
His condition is not derived from, it's not a pure obesity thing. Like he is a little bit fat, but he's got something else going on, like probably some thyroid thing, but it was something really rare. And he does these live streams and stuff to raise money for charity.
Oh, good, okay.
But then people post that in these, coronavirus. There's a coronavirus group on it, and they post it in there.
You're in a coronavirus group?
It started off as just like, it's a Facebook group that was mainly for like people to post information and news articles that they know, like what's going on. So I kind of use it to keep up. But then it kind of turned into a bit of let's just say a little bit of shit posting. And,
like all good groups on Facebook turn out eventually. That's what they all turn into.
Turned it, just through random like memes and stuff, and it's like that's fun and all that. But then it would get like there was a real difference for like, okay, I can sit here and I can laugh with you about Chinese people eating bats.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna post a video where they're like where they're just eating something that's been cooked and everything, it's like, what do you want me to do?
It's not the same. It's not the same. Even I've had some exotic meats before. I've had porcupine. I've had horse. I don't think I did snake, but alligator.
Yeah. Basically, if I just change your hair color, slant your eyes, and you post it in that group, and you're it's oh, that's why the coronavirus is there. It's like, no, it's
it's more than it's right. Eating it raw, eating the bat soups and stuff like that. But I mean, even like the puffer fish in Japan, which is a delicacy. If you don't prepare that shit right, it'll kill you. Right? We are accustomed to eating some pretty fucked up things and being perfectly normal about it.
Yeah, compared to the rest of the world, like the rest of the world looks at us and sees us eat things, and then we look at them eat things, and there's going to be some overlap, but there's also some areas where it's like
some disconnect.
Yeah, it wasn't so long ago, and in some parts of the country, like in the U.S., you can totally eat squirrels.
Sure. I'm sure that was a delicacy at one point.
Squirrels were a big part of the sort of like the frontier kind of guys that would go out and exploring the West would eat squirrel.
Yeah.
Different types of fish. I don't eat this, and it's a bit of a meme at this point. Lutefisk.
What is that?
It's so Minnesota being a Scandinavian in origin as a state, heavy Scandinavian influences. It's
like sheep's stomach or something, right?
No. It's like a fermented rotten fish in gelatin form.
Oh, right, great.
It's not actually like the way it's prepared. I guess it's like you don't get. Okay, it's not dangerous. Like it's not going to get you sick in terms of disease. It'll get you sick because it's gross.
right. Yeah. I don't like fish generally, so that's definitely like
it's like if kimchi. It's like fish prepared in a fashion of kimchi in terms of fermentation, then made into a gelatin form. That's
even more nasty.
It's like it's a bit of a meme because like every Minnesotan,
it's transparent.
Every Minnesotan knows about it, but not many actually will ever even try it. Like I don't think I would ever try it.
Yeah, I like to go out and try the local dish or the local beer. I tried that in Wales as well, but I'm not doing that in Minnesota. No, fuck your.
Did you ever watch the show Bizarre Foods?
No. I don't watch a lot of television, so
There's a
I know
show
not
called
American
Bizarre
television.
Foods in the States. It was on like the Food Network, and there's this guy named Andrew Zimmern. He would always go around and eat like very exotic types of foods.
Mhm.
Surprise, he's from Minnesota. He actually was one of the he was part of one of the local news networks, and just hit it off and had this idea for a show, and he goes around, eats a lot of different foods, and it's funny. He'll like go to different parts of this country, but then he'll go around the world and try. I think he's like tried like like certain animal eyeballs. He's probably tried a lot of different. I think he went to Taiwan and he had stinky tofu. Okay, I've told you about that.
Sure.
And so he bites into this. So stinky tofu is fairly popular. Like my mom eats it. Basically, you come across and if you ever find it at a street vendor, like you'll smell. It's just this. It's not so much foul as it is just a bit disturbing.
Right.
Like just kind of like, what is that? Like I don't want to smell that. Like you're not. It's not like you like want to run away from it. It's just like that doesn't smell too good. But it's supposed to taste really good. Well, there's different ways of preparing this, and there was a way where it was like they took tofu and they let it sit in this muck kind of stuff to like whatever ferment or cook it or prepare it. And he like took a bite of that and just probably one of the rare times on the show where he just like puts it down and goes, no, I can't eat this. Like anything else, he's just like, no, it tastes like this, tastes like that. He even did a whole episode on the Minnesota State Fair, like all the bizarre foods there. You can get alligator on a stick.
Right. Probably some cobra and some snake.
I think they might have that. But Minnesota State Fair has a lot of food on a stick. They had spaghetti and meatballs on a stick.
That's pretty cool.
So they basically take spaghetti and meatballs and they bread it in a ball or some sort of thing, and then they fry it. And then they poke a stick through it and just eat it like that.
It sounds pretty good, actually.
It does. I mean, they'll have like deep fried Snickers on a stick.
Yeah, there's some way, like in Scotland, everything is fried. So the first fried Snickers bar, that's a Scottish invention. Scots were the first ones to start doing that. And there's a name for it. I don't know what it's called, but so the Americans put it on a stick.
Yeah, there's like 100 or 200 items on a stick that you can get at the Minnesota State Fair. It's known for that.
That's pretty cool.
But, anyways,
did we do the Minnesota Fair? I can't remember.
No, you never came with. I've been there.
I've
been there a couple times. It's funny. I've been there once as a kid and once a couple years ago. It was this not the year, but 2018. I did it. I went there when I was on the carnivore diet, and I did. It was like I tried to eat as much like meat. I think I had like some corn. That was fine, and then I had a beer. That was really weird. Like, so in the middle of ketosis, having no carbs for that whole time, and then I drank a beer.
Yeah,
it was like I ate a whole loaf of bread. It felt like it felt really heavy.
Actually, I could speak to that a little bit because on this trip, I must have put on some weight, right? Because I've had to like loosen my belt one buckle, and it's only been 5 fucking days, right? It's like for some reason, I didn't have good water. I was drinking tap water. Generally, I don't drink tap water, so I don't know. The fucking estrogen in the water is like making me put on fat. It could have been the drinking, but I tried to kind of moderate that and stuff. I don't know what it is, but something out there really. I got to get a gym, man. I got to get back on the grind.
Yep. We were going to talk about the. I guess we'll give a few minutes on the election. Everything's all about that now.
Yeah. The politics, man.
We're a few months away from absolute triggering, I think.
Oh, you think the great triggering, the Ragnarok of the woke is about to unfold, the end of all things?
Yeah, the second edition or whatever it is. Yeah. It's just So everyone kind of knows like Andrew Yang dropped out, which I know
No
very
more
early
freedom
on.
dollars.
I know very early on. I pretty much called him a commie traitor.
Right.
But I couldn't help but later on kind of acknowledge like he was definitely a really good candidate. Although
Right.
I've seen a lot of read his like policies that you don't hear about. Definitely has some really
Weird ones.
weird ones that I don't agree with. But in terms of viability and just the way he appealed to people, he could have been a really good candidate. Like him and Tulsi were like the the most like kind of the
Top
the
tier.
yeah. Just the way they appealed. They were breaking from the narrative. They weren't playing the we all hate Trump train.
Right.
Um, they definitely pointed out like we don't agree with the president, but we're not going to deny like the guy got elected for reasons
Exactly.
that are
Exactly.
that we need to then take advantage of and be better candidates for. So him and Tulsi are good at that, and Tulsi's still in, and it's debatable if she's going to really make any difference. I have a feeling she's going to drop out in the next
Yeah.
3-4 weeks, I'd say.
She's not very favored by the media.
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising that Hillary would just straight up call her a Russian asset on TV, and she's actually suing. Tulsi's suing her for that.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Tulsi's
Yeah.
also suing Google.
Really? Good.
Yeah, she there was so what had happened was on the debate stage, one of the debates, she made some. Oh, she what happened was is when she delivered her like crippling blow against Kamala Harris.
Right. I
Pretty much
remember.
destroyed. So she did that, and her campaign like kicked in right away. Like we're going to run Google ads, take advantage of the traffic that's coming in. Google disabled their Google Ads account for 24 hours.
Disabled Tulsi's Google account for 24 hours.
No reason given.
Wow.
Right after that happened. So it was, and like when something goes viral, you got to catch that. Like the first 12 to 24 hours is
everything.
huge.
Yeah.
Nope. Just fucking, just screwed over. So she's suing them for that. Definitely. I mean, it's meddling, it's
It's
definitely
election
like,
interference. Yeah.
yeah. There's that. And then of course suing, Hillary Clinton for, would it be defamation?
Right. Yeah, it would be for
Which is spoken,
claiming she was a Russian off. Yeah.
Anyway, so there's that. But so she's got that going for her. But it's just it's she's not catching the traction I think she really needs. I think like hers, I actually prefer her over Yang. Like
Who's
Bernie
that?
Tulsi.
Okay.
Just on that side, like if I had to choose, Amy Klobuchar, biggest joke out of Minnesota. Elizabeth Warren is basically Hillary Clinton light, and Bernie Sanders too old and just too crazy with his socialist ideas. Did you see
Biden
the
still in?
creepy old guy? Don't care for him. Did you see? So Steven Crowder did a video pointing out the flip flop ideas of Bernie Sanders.
No,
So,
I didn't.
So Bernie Sanders did an interview with Ezra Klein talking about just some conversation, and basically got to the topic of borders.
Right.
And then he was like, because if you want to be, these United States, you need borders. You can't just, we definitely need to take the lead in the struggle for against world poverty, but not at the expense of our own people. And he starts talking about some statistics. Youth unemployment is a certain percentage, and we can't just bring in a whole bunch of immigrants and have them take away the jobs from our young people. And so he's talking, pretty reasonable stuff. This is why we can't just have rampant, immigration, both legal and illegal and such. But we should definitely definitely let people in. Like we let people in through the proper procedures.
Yeah, the best of the best, kind of thing. Yeah.
That was like not even a couple of years ago. I think it was that interview, and then he flips around and goes on a debate stage and takes the common narrative. We need to, we cannot separate these families from their kids. We need to help them. We need to let them. It's like, whoa, 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 what? What?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, politicians don't know what they're doing with the whole immigration thing, and I mean, I don't know what was Minnesota has changed in what way from, because you'll got a lot of Somali migrants. That's how you ended up with Elon. Was it Omar?
Ilhan
Ilhan,
Omar, yeah.
Elon Omar.
I
Yeah,
mean, she came straight out of the cities.
yeah. And well, we'll see where that ends up. Do you know anything about how that might have changed issues in the cities?
with her, our cities?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I'll put this. I think you and I had I don't know if we talked about this specifically, but about our friends up north in northern
Yes.
Minnesota.
Yes.
And so there was a conversation that we're all having surrounding. So Trump was basically he was met with the what was going on with the refugees. So a lot of counties across the country, not just Minnesota, but across the country, have been basically given the option to whether they want to let in a lot of these refugees,
Right.
or to just deny them. He left it up
Right.
to the counties individually, and some people didn't agree with that. They thought he should have just obviously
Kind of forced it through.
yeah, because that would be a great idea.
That
Well,
always works.
so some of our friends were talking about this, and some of them were like, "Yeah, we should totally, it's going to help the economy and all this," and the others were like, "No, don't you know what's going on in like these other parts of Minnesota?" And I was like, and I heard about this. I was like, "Well, what is going on?" And I go, "Oh yeah, a lot of these parts are completely turned into shitholes." Like, so there's this college town in Minnesota, St. Cloud. It's St. Cloud State University is there. It's basically like, I'd say it's in the top 5 in terms of like the largest universities, but it's a
Okay.
big party school. So it's always been kind of like, less than dignified because of that. But there's a lot of
Sure.
people that go there, get degrees and whatnot. Well, that whole town has been, has done really well for itself. You got just good economy and a lot of people there. Starting to really take a deep turn, like downturn,
Right.
because of
Right.
we're going to let in all these immigrants and it's going to be great. Crime, stabbings, stuff like that. And of course, I mean, you got young students, and what tends to happen when you have a lot of young people in these towns, and it's not, again, everybody, obviously not all,
Right.
but this happens. Sweden is just fucked, literally.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, Sweden is really bad off. London is pretty bad too.
Was it rape capital of the Western world, Sweden?
Yeah, is Malmo is yeah. We have a friend in Malmo actually.
Yeah. And then so here in Minnesota, you get some of these towns, and I don't encounter it too much, but wherever, and I just hate, because it's like you don't, the idealist inside me kind of wants to really like see things as like, okay, I really, people are pretty much the same. It's just a little bit of cultural difference. Yes, there's cultures that are better than others. Some have better values and all this, but you kind of hope like, oh, when they come to the Western world, there's a bit of an assimilation period, and they kind of, they start to, people kind of just fit in for the most part.
Yeah. I agree.
I'm not seeing that.
No. And there's a reason.
Yeah, I
There's
mean,
a reason why.
I'm your common man. I'm not. I don't have a lot of money or whatever. I'm going about my day. I'm doing a regular job, and I encounter people. I encounter situations, and I see people. I'm not personally affected. I'm not having like I'm not getting like jumped by a migrant or something. But I mean,
Yeah.
I'll just see places where it's like it's typically only a specific group of people that are just kind of drawing attention to themselves, mainly in a negative way, whether it's they're being disruptive in a McDonald's or in a whatever restaurant that I'm maybe coming across, or it's just they're just causing a scene somehow, being loud. not being respectful. I'll see how they interact with maybe some. If I'm at like a McDonald's or something, and I see someone interacting with a worker, and it's just very not cool. Like you think you're. You think you've seen, your white Karens going into a McDonald's demanding to speak to a manager is bad. Until you see, yeah. So, and that gets, I see all that, and I can't help but just kind of go, man, I really don't want to be a racist today.
Yeah.
And I'm not. It's just you get this sort of calloused attitude from just everything you're exposed to, and it's what the politicians and the sort of the media narrative doesn't ever talk about.
I mean, it is quite something. Even out here in the UK, I think I was actually looking for this. There is a KFC. You know what a KFC is, right? Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah.
A KFC in a town out here in Clemsey Wood, they had to erect a security barrier over the counter because of the amount of people that were like threatening the cashiers and the staff and jumping over and just taking food and doing all sorts of shit.
Bulletproof plexiglass type stuff.
I'll actually make a problem.
Like your clear plastic kind of barrier.
No, it's like some wiring. Hold on, let me see if I can share my screen.
Jesus, it's like a freaking fence.
It's like a fence. It's like a fence. So let me see if I can. Here we go.
Man. I mean, I get it. I've walked into gas stations when I'm in like the cities of Minneapolis. In Minneapolis, I'll see like you get some security barrier. Jeez.
Welcome to the UK.
Like
culturally enriched.
I'll see like your security barriers like at a gas station. Like you'll see a like a plexiglass type of thing or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's fine. That's there. You go to like a certain place that deal with money. They have the same thing. That's fine. But
sure, yeah, jewelry stores
and a KFC.
This is what it's come to, and I mean, I've never been to this area, so I don't really know. But yeah, this is a thing, and even Let me not say that. That would be bad.
Yeah, I'll say this. 90+% of the time I'm on the road driving. And with what I do, I drive a lot. Yeah. Anytime I ever encounter poor driving, dangerous driving, just bad decisions, 90+% of the time it is not a white person.
Okay.
Usually one of the migrants. And it's just like
right. I mean, I know in many respects, the stats are kind of showing that the migrants are overrepresented in a lot of crime, for being such a small, portion.
And it's not even like, I'm not a cop. I'm not in any sort of position where I have to report anyone or do anything about this. It's just, I'm just, your regular, I want this to be clear to like the viewers and the listeners. Like this is what I'm seeing. Just, I'm a regular guy going about my day. I'm not in any position to really like, I don't have any real incentive to try to see things one way or another. It's just what I see. And that's what people don't really get. They think like, oh, if you're a cop, if you're this or if you're that, like you have these like racial biases to like want to do something or to like, and it's like, there's no incentives.
Yeah.
The incentive, if anything, is I want to definitely be safe, take care of myself. But it's like, I'm just driving and I'm seeing, you get typical people making bad decisions. Like people are stupid on the road. But I've with jobs that I've had, I kind of learned to like an experience I have. I'm learning to like deal with that, be safer and more different driving techniques to like be safe. But
yes,
you got to be really, really, you gotta be making some decisions.
I'll put it to you like this: like your mother obviously was an immigrant, right?
Yeah,
and I'm sure she was, when she lived with your dad. And wherever they were, I'm sure she was probably one of maybe a handful at most of probably other Asian other Asian people. I don't think maybe she didn't even have any Asian friends when she moved out there.
Right. I mean, she would joke with me like, during her sort of, if you want to call it like assimilation period, and she wouldn't call it this, but like she's
Yes.
assimilating. You know, she
Yeah, I
married
know
my
what you mean.
dad. My dad would go to work.
She was kind of on her own.
She just stayed home.
Right, because she didn't have friends and she didn't
Yeah,
have other,
it took her a
other
while to like, okay,
Taiwanese.
learn to drive, get a car, get a license, to then, okay, now she's doing something, she's working or doing other things.
Sure.
But it was
Yeah.
mostly on my dad to kind of like do a lot of that.
Yeah, sure. But the point I was making is that she didn't have a community to just like fall into out there. You know, she was exposed to American culture full on. It was just, it's just her. But when you do mass immigration, like what we are doing out here in Europe, we don't have access to assimilation because you dump so many of the same people in the same area of the same culture. You get these ghettos of that culture.
They just section themselves off.
Exactly. Yeah. And we have gang problems now. We have stabbings. We have acid attacks in the face. And even people I know, like I know an Indian gentleman. He's a Pakistani descent. His parents moved to England back in the 70s. So he's been here for at least 50 years. And he talks about in his neighborhood where he is in London, all of these other Pakistanis have suddenly moved into this area, like just like a couple hundred of them. And they've completely taken over this little community that he's in. And his comment to me was, my parents left these people behind. They did not come to the UK to be influenced by Pakistani culture. They came to the UK to have crumpets and tea and, salute the Queen. They wanted British values and British culture. And this is what's going on. So like I have a friend of mine. He's a fan of the Glorious House of Gains. He and I are going to meet up with Robert Frank at Body Power this year. And he's in Scotland. Scotland is very left. And he was surprised that my stance on immigration and Brexit and all these other things was not like open borders and let everybody in and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I tried to explain to him it's because of this very reason. I did not come here to interact with all of these other cultures. It's great. I love interacting with cultures, but I chose to live amongst the British, amongst the English.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is what, I'm all for immigration, legally get the best people. Even that's a type of reverse colonialism because these, countries, they need these people, but we're going to take them. Okay. Nobody seems to care about that, but all right, no problem. And you bring them in at a reasonable pace and they assimilate. But if you're bringing in mass swaths, like what's going on in Germany and how they're sprinkling them by the thousands in all these places, that's not a good way to do this,
Yeah, you're getting these, and it's this flip-flop idea. It's this very flip-flop idea. They go between like the individual and the group.
Yeah.
So your left-leaning individuals that are pushing those open borders are on one hand saying we need to let them in because they need to make a better life. So there's a sense of individual, like, okay, they're protecting their own. They need to like have a better life. And then they'll flip over to a more group dynamic of like sort of just, they come in, they need to maintain their identity, which is fine. There's people that come to countries, better countries that still maintain their cultural identity, while still assimilating to the country they're in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there is a very big Caribbean population out here in the UK. In fact, we're having a scandal right now with something called the Windrush generation. So it was after the war. England was in ruins, London especially, and the government basically said, "Look, we'll open ourselves up to the Caribbean, to the Commonwealth. Anybody who comes here and works to help rebuild the country, and that includes not committing any crimes, you would be entitled to citizenship and you can remain in England, in the UK." And a number of people came across. I mean, there's flights, boats of Caribbean and West Indian people coming across here. So there's a very large West Indian population. The scandal is a lot of them got into crime. A lot of them have been arrested for, rape, murder, stabbing people to death, and some non-violent crimes, burglary, auto theft, and vandalism, all these other things. which was against the policy. If you break the law, you're deported. And the Home Office has never done it. They're doing it now. And it's, everybody's bleeding heart. Like, oh my God, these people have been here for 50 years. Da, 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 da. You broke the law. If that you got to uphold the law. But anyway, so we have this large population out here. And, there's a lot of them in Tottenham, which is one of the districts in London. It's North London. And that's, there were riots in Tottenham not that long ago, a couple of years ago. Again, it's all of these different types of influences that are coming in, and you go there and it's like a little Jamaica. You got the food, you're smelling the weed, you're hearing the music and stuff. Now, I don't mind that, but I didn't come here for that. I had plenty of that back in the Caribbean. I came here for something different. And yeah, a lot of English people don't seem to recognize that the British culture actually has value. American culture has value. German culture has value, but they don't see that,
I mean, you guys are starting to adopt other Western Europe countries. I mean, you guys got, you guys got Legos everywhere.
Yes, we do. And
you're adopting Lego culture.
Yeah, we are. And this used to be, the tea, a cup of tea, people we've gone completely onto coffee. Coffee is now the shit. Like, that is the stuff. So the Starbucks model is now the dominant drink in the UK. You don't get a cup of tea. When I first landed, I went to the McDonald's right outside Gatwick and I said, well, can I get a cup of tea? And they said no. So yeah.
Something's wrong.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And it's fine. Cultures change. And I prefer coffee over tea. When I was younger, it was the other way around. I didn't like coffee. Now I'm older and I got bigger balls. I can handle some coffee. So yeah, I don't mind. I mean, most of Scandinavia. When we were in Norway, for instance, those guys were drinking 8 to 10 cups a day of coffee. So it is still a very European thing. So it's not too far off, to like their coffee.
Well, we're coming. Actually, we've got about 15, 20 minutes here.
Do you want to finally address the elephant in the room?
What?
Star Trek Picard.
Oh God. Four episodes.
Fourth episode. We got 20 minutes. So at least we wouldn't be boring our audience with an hour of Trek.
Still mediocre as fuck. I think. It's mediocre. It's still mediocre. They completely screwed up the Romulans, which it sucks. Like, the Romulans are way too human.
Right.
And they're way too... because they go on that planet. So, yeah, spoilers alert, everyone. So they basically left, and they were going to go to that place, Free Cloud.
Yes.
What's funny is they still haven't identified a single planet that's even part of the canon. Like, it's all just brand new planets and places.
Yes, and I'll comment on the name of the planet in a minute.
So they're going to this place, Free Cloud, to try to find Bruce Maddox, which is the guy who, if anyone remembers, he was the robotics scientist that was trying to take data away from Measure of a Man in the Next Generation. He was trying to disassemble them and learn how to better reproduce androids and such, like Data. So I guess they're I don't know if they're going to actually bring him back. Like, are they going to actually
they're gonna, yes, member berries. They're full of member berries.
Yeah, apparently, and then Seven of Nine makes an appearance at the very, very end, which is random.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, so they make a pit stop at the planet Vashti, which is some Romulan refugee planet.
Yes.
Now, tell me about this name, Brooke, because I didn't even realize it. I'm not too versed in my Old Testament, but Vashti is who now?
Yeah, Vashti was the Old Testament queen in the book of Esther. And I can't remember who the king was. It wasn't Nebuchadnezzar, but whoever the king was. Anyway, his wife was supposed to be so beautiful, and she was so vain, and she was so beautiful and stuff like that. The king summoned her to the court, Queen Vashti, and she refused to come. And it was an embarrassment to the king. Like, she refused to submit, an unsubmissive woman. Go figure. And he basically banished her. And that's when he basically put out a call for all of the most beautiful women in the place to basically come and have sex with him, and he will marry the woman that gives him the best sex. That's the story of Esther, right? The Jewish celebration of Purim is based on this thing. So the minute I heard the name of the planet Vashti, that's what came to mind. It's like, oh yes, of course, a rebellious woman, right? You know, the woman that the woke culture, you know, the SJW culture, they've retold the story and they've made it into she was an independent woman and she ain't need no man to tell her what to do, and you know, all that, you know, stuff. That was the first thing that came to mind when I heard the name of the planet. So, and I wasn't disappointed.
So so basically he goes to this planet. It's like this Romulan refugee planet where he went there apparently during the initial when they were starting to evacuate the Romulans. And I didn't understand, like, so you remember in the flashback scene he like meets the kid, that little kid. Yeah. What the hell was he wearing?
When he showed up, right? It's like
this white outfit, the big hat. Like, I thought, because he was still an admiral, so I was like, oh, he would be in like a Starfleet uniform.
He's representing the Federation. Why would he not show up there in uniform?
So was he like on vacation during the evacuation or something?
No, that was so
obvious. And that's totally out of but even if he was wearing like some sort of civilian clothing, that looks nothing like the stuff they ever wore in any of the Next Generation or anything. Like, they would always wear like these very loose-fitting, comfortable clothing. Like, he's wearing this like weird, like,
knockoff Indiana Jones, like a cheap Indiana Jones sort of getup.
It was like a knockoff. Actually, it was more like a knockoff Latin American drug lord look.
Yeah. With the fedora and
the white.
Very weird. I agree.
And then he, of course, then the only term that comes to mind is Romulan battle nuns.
Right.
And I've looked at like the whole thing with the Romulans is like, you realize those two people that are living with him, like, they're Romulans. You're like, okay,
yes,
them. And they acted way too human, which is weird.
Right. What is the story with the Romulans then? Because they're the offshoot of the Vulcans, right? They're the Vulcans who chose to stick with emotions.
It was like over 1,000 years before anything really substantial. I think maybe longer than that. A group of Vulcans in a colony, like far away, basically decided to go against the typical Vulcan idea of like suppressing emotions.
Right.
Sort of that logic. Like, they still pursue logic to a degree, but they sort of mix that with a more of a sense of emotions.
Right.
Because like even in so then when you look through Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, like the way Romulans are portrayed is very sort of monotone. Like, okay, everyone's wearing gray. There's that,
right? But
their ships are these green looking ships. They use they don't use a warp drive. They don't use an antimatter reaction for their ships.
Right. Okay.
They actually capture singularity, so like small black holes in their ships to use the power of their warp drive, which is like interesting. Anyways. And they had a real them and Klingons do not get along at all.
Right.
So while they're sort of the enemies of the Federation and the Klingons, they tend to see Klingons as like sort of just savage, stupid people. Right. Anytime you see them interact, they like to basically like maintain emotional control, but they like to poke and prod at people's emotions.
Okay. But they're basically an offshoot of the Vulcans.
They're an offshoot of the Vulcans in canon, but they're supposed to represent the Roman Empire.
Right. Yeah, I get that. I get
They have a
that. All right.
Senate. They have a lot of their positions of power are
Yeah, it's
referencing.
Romulus and Remus, and yeah, it's the two planets. Those are the two founders of.
They have a proconsul. They have praetors. They have a lot of these
Yeah.
positions
Yeah.
referencing
Fair
that. And then their ships, their bird of prey, is supposed to be representative of like their actual crest of their empires, an eagle. So
Yeah,
it's a
from the
lot of
Roman.
this.
Yeah,
but they're not. It's funny. They're not portrayed as Nazis. Interesting enough,
right.
the Cardassians were the Nazis.
The Cardassians. Well, the Klingons were the Nazis not the Nazis. They were the communists, really, in the original series. And speaking of the Klingon in the original series, we get a member berry in this episode with the original Klingon bird of prey, that's how the bird of prey looked in the original series.
Oh, okay. I didn't notice that.
Yeah. Those member berries.
they're doing all this stuff. So then you get your, and then you find out like they're just adding to it. Like, oh, you have this order of like Romulan nuns that are like, the most renowned for hand-to-hand combat, but they look totally normal, and they're like the enemies of the Tel Shiar, which is like, what? Like, what is this about? Like, where did this come from? This is out of nowhere.
Too much exposition, man. Yeah, I agree.
They're adding, I mean, yes, like Deep Space Nine as you're watching, they're doing exposition, but it's like within the confines of like the overall canon. This is like, let's just completely just say screw the Romulans and every other series before it. They're these very, they really screwed them up. Like they look the same. That's it.
Right. I don't know. I don't remember much about the Romulans
because they were very orderly. They were very. They just had a sense of order and self-control. But they also were like one of the jokes was they had these very gray, just boring kind of styles.
Right.
You're on this planet. Everyone's dressed differently. It looks like the Wild West, and then.
Well, it's supposed to represent, that time of Americana. So it's a job at the United States at this point, where he goes back to the planet. And they're xenophobic, and they got the big barrier around the planet. That's Trump's wall, Romulans only. This is a throwback to the 50s with segregation. All of this nonsense, right, is spewed.
You can do that without completely fucking up the canon development of the Romulans. You can do it a lot of different ways. Maybe they encounter a race that is like that. Like that would have been way better than just
fucking.
It's kind of like what Discovery did with the Klingons.
Yeah. Well, let's not get started on that. And then they've completely raped Lord of the Rings, and we've now got our own version of Elrond, and his name is Elnor. And he's basically there.
Oh, I thought he was like a Romulan Legolas.
Yeah, like a Romulan Legolas. Well, I when I saw Elnor, I was like, oh fuck, we're stealing Tolkien now. Like nobody has an original idea, because Elrond was the elf king in Rivendell.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh Jesus
and then
Christ.
And then the whole about like they choose to give their sword to like serve someone if it's like a lost cause and all this. I'm like, why? Like what? Where did all this come from? Like this is not.
That is so, and it's very stupid as well, because assassins are very selfish. They're in it for the money. So I don't know how, I mean, you could write it that way fine, but it threw me off actually.
They could have. So my knowledge of like the canon and the story, they could have. I don't know if you remember the series of episodes in Next Generation where Picard and Data go to meet with Spock on Romulus because there was like the reunification movement.
I think I remember that, yes.
So there was that whole arc. They could have done something with that.
Yeah.
Like he works with a lot of these like reunification people because they were still Romulans. Like they weren't like, oh, we're just this completely different Romulans that,
Yeah. They had a faction.
Anything else.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I think I told you last week, like the whole joke about like they could have totally gotten help from the Klingons.
Yeah.
Because Worf at the end of Deep Space Nine basically becomes a very important person in the Empire. We'll just say
Yeah,
that.
you were telling me that. Yeah.
And he could have only done that, but nope. Fucking nope.
Yeah. I mean, the only saving grace was that 7 and 9 showed up at the end. I was like, oh, tits. And there's something else.
They're gonna downplay that though. They're not gonna do that.
I know, because woke.
I mean, she's wearing she can't be wearing her skin tight suit and everything.
Yeah,
and she's a lot more human. Makes sense that she's more human because it took time for her to really relax her like Borg self.
Sure. I mean, it was a prosthetic, right? What she wore during Voyager, the boobs were not real. They were a prosthetic, and they did that on purpose to give her like ridiculous proportions. And she would wear right. So she's older now. I understand they don't really want to go through all that work, and I don't suspect she wants to be that uncomfortable. Fine, but I mean, she's still a little icing on the cake. But another thing I noticed on this is that the only other man on this ship is the same actor playing the captain, right? Because he's got all of these holograms. That's right. Yeah. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, why didn't they just get other people? And
other people?
Like get other male actors and actually, because they don't actually want any more men on the crew, right? They want to keep it more women to men.
You got, Raffi is a bit of a Mary. Yeah, they're all Mary Suits.
They're all fucking Mary Suits. They're all.
I'm just thinking, like Raffi is this, like, sort of whatever she is. I mean, they
charge, kind of, bad bitch.
Yeah, and then you have the lady who's she's the foremost expert in robotics on Earth. What? Just okay.
Yeah. Just happens to be, and that whole dialogue with her and the captain in the beginning was so fucking weird. And it kind of looked at it like, why are you having this conversation about space being so spacious? And you're bored because,
she's never been on a spaceship, but it's still like it doesn't like. If you did it like a quick little thing, like, oh, I've never been in space before. That's it. Like we're done with this conversation.
2 minutes. Is it always like this? But they go into this whole thing, and then she brings her father into it, and. It's kind of, if you're.
I don't know if they were trying to play up that she's insecure.
Right.
Those scientist types that are so insecure they'll just blurt out whatever.
I don't know. It didn't advance the plot for me, and I was actually so tired. I mean, I am tired, but I was like, maybe I shouldn't watch this now because it takes a lot of effort to concentrate.
Yeah.
So next week is halfway. We're 4 episodes in out of 10. And nothing has fucking happened. We still don't know what's going on with this goddamn cube. Frankly, I don't care. We don't know how the Romulans got it.
The cube thing is whatever. I mean, at least with Picard, he's at least still progressing some plot.
Yeah, he grew a little bit in this episode. Now he's got his own Legolas,
He had a little bit of bringing back a little bit like the whole fencing thing, kind of.
Oh, the Three Musketeers scene, yeah, of course.
Yeah, that was all. I was like, okay, all right, he's getting a little bit of that strength back, which is good.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what comes of that. So yeah, I mean, he mentions the Three Musketeers, and then he ends up in a sword fight. And then did they cut to the clips where he'd sword fighted before? I can't remember.
Probably not. No.
Because he used to sword fight on the Enterprise.
He would do fencing with like Guinan and some other people. I think he was really good. He was actually pretty good. Yeah. But there was just that. It was just like a little bit of an homage to that. There was no reference to the past. Like they haven't done any flashbacks. The closest thing they did to showing anything from Next Generation was that little sequence where he was with the news reporter, the interviewer. Right. And they cut the pictures.
Yeah.
They don't actually point. So there's a lot we still don't know, and I really hope they do a little more world building, like setting up, like talking about what's going on. What's going on with the Klingons. What's fucking make a reference to something that's happened. Talk about. It's a tunnel vision. Because it's just Earth, the Federation, and the Romulans. We haven't said anything about the Klingons, nothing about Ferengi, nothing about other ships, other places. It's just Earth and Romulus that's destroyed. That's it. You haven't heard anything. Because in any other show, there's always these little like things that kind of point at just there's a little crossover. They'll mention something. They'll talk about some event from the past. Nope.
Yeah, not this time. It's I mean, I'm bored. I'm getting very bored of it, and we're almost halfway through. We got one more episode to the halfway point, and we still I still don't know what's going on. I still don't care about the other girl. I don't care about what's going on in the cube. The member berries are stale.
Yeah, like you better be really racking up those member berries, or I'm going to get really, really bored with this.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, the Klingon ship was cool. Well, I don't know if it was cool. It was. I see what you're doing. You're trying to, build that nostalgia. You're trying to tie it into the whole old canon and stuff like that.
But if you want to do that, you really got to dial that up. You got.
Yeah, I don't think most people would have noticed that. Like, I still remember.
I need to see some Klingons. I need to see.
Correct. And again, we have this war guy in the Klingon ship back and forth and stuff like that, and they fight him off and whatever. We don't know anything about him. Like, his whole arc was very pointless. That entire thing could have been done without.
What do you mean?
But whoever's running, who's flying the ship, Krog or whatever, I can't remember. But what was most disappointing was the actual firefight, like the staff war, right? The fighting in space. It wasn't that great. I mean, I thought, in terms of the special effects and stuff like that, the quality is a lot better. It has a lot of production behind it and stuff. But they were in the fight between the Klingon ship and the crew, and I didn't feel any tension. I didn't feel like they were in any kind of danger. And it was made worse when the captain turned on his Spanish-speaking weapons hologram. And he's acting like a drunk, and he's like, yeah, well, fuck whatever, we'll do what we Spanish. Can. Yeah, it's like it's kind of like that took me out of it. So I never felt in that moment that there was any kind of real danger.
The language thing is kind of funny, because obviously you would rarely ever really hear like the alien speaking in their native tongue.
Yeah.
And then there was just the random thing where like Picard's just speaking all this Romulan.
Well, I mean, what happened to the universal translate? I thought that just converts everything to English.
It converts. I mean, maybe it's just like for authenticity. Like he's probably to him he's speaking in English,
right?
But it sounds like Romulan to everyone else. So it's like kind of showing that more cultured side of him. Like, I think. Maybe it's a narrative, kind of to address like different languages and multiculturalism.
Well, that's what I was about to say. It's
showing respect of him, that he's showing a respect of like speaking in that language, like because in every other show it's always just been English because English is what everyone speaks in America, so we just do it that way. It saves money. It's that. And so they probably kind of see that as like, oh, that's like a whitewashing of alien languages, maybe. I'm being serious here. Like that's probably what's going through their minds. So they're like, because I heard this whole language, and I'm like, the only real Romulan words I've ever heard, like they've said, is Jolan Tru. Jolan Tru was like their hello.
Yes. Okay.
And he says that. I'm like, okay, so they're not just like saying fuck everything that's been established. Like that's the one thing they're holding on to. Like, because he says that in the show, and I'm like, okay, but that's it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't have as much detail on it. I was bored. I don't care about the characters. Even Picard, they're using the hollow room to recreate his house. I thought that was kind of bizarre. But I guess maybe for set design and stuff like that, they didn't want to actually build a cabin, so they'll just reuse the set they had for Picard's vineyard. So that might be a budgeting issue. Yeah. I just don't care.
Like, why is he that homesick when one of the first things he says when he's about to leave is like, I was never meant to stay home. I had to go out in the stars. Goes out into the stars, makes a home on a holodeck. Like,
brings his home.
Why? What?
Yeah. Who is the writers? I'm sure there are a lot of female writers.
He got a real like he said, "Oh, I didn't want to come back," but then I had this Alex Kurtzman.
He's the
Something, yeah.
showrunner.
He like wrote the story though. Helped
He wrote this story. Well, yeah, he's
with the
yeah.
overall story, and he goes, "Oh, this is a really good writer." That's like his whole reason of coming back, and I'm like, really? You couldn't have brought back like any of like the guys who honored the Gene Roddenberry's vision to write the story. Because if you look at all like the writers and producers that were involved in all the shows.
Yeah.
And you'll see them like even like because Enterprise, some people debate if that's even whatever it is. But when you watch Enterprise and you look at all the people involved in that, you'll see, oh, there's guys from Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Next Generation that came over here. That makes sense. And they can actually keep it within relatively the same way. You had your little things thrown in there, but overall, it's like it's a Star Trek show.
Right.
They didn't bring any of those guys over into this.
Interesting.
So I'm
actually looking at a picture of I could probably quickly show you before we close out. I think this is Picard with. Let's just close that with the writers.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know any of these people.
What are the names?
Let's see. So Kristen Bear. She writes for Discovery, the STD. Michael Chambon, he wrote for John Carter, one of the biggest. I guess that's the big flop that didn't work out. Akiva Goldsman, A Beautiful Mind. Dindra Pendle Thompson, Lucky, I don't even know what that is. And Emmy nominee James Duff for Major Crimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Not a single Star Trek sci-fi writer in there.
I don't think so. It doesn't look that way.
Because if you look at you go look up writers and producers of Enterprise, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Next Generation.
None of these.
And you'll see you'll see a couple people that kind of migrate over. Like not everyone goes over, but like you see people that have like carried on the torch. No,
correct.
Not here. Like this is just a completely new crew. They have no they probably didn't even consult these other guys.
Yeah. Well, that's it. They didn't want it to be like the old Star Trek.
Roddenberry died halfway through Next Generation, if you didn't know that.
Yeah, he did. His ashes were taken to space, which is pretty cool.
And then they just continued on. Like the show actually continued on following his vision. You had a little bit of like people who really notice these things will see like the differences, but it was still well within the
it was
overall
around
story.
Or season 2 or something when he started going down, and that's when you know that it actually got better because he was very thing about not causing conflict because humans had evolved past a certain
right. So then you get a little more fighting. You get the whole half of Deep Space Nine is a war.
Yeah, exactly. It's if you don't have conflict, you don't have a story. There's no growth. There's nothing.
So you introduce it, but it's still not that out of the ordinary.
Yeah. I get that.
And in here, it's just like completely new writers, completely different story. There's no world building. There's a little bit of the member berries to like keep you going, but it is not much of like where's the technobabble? Come on. Like, can we reverse the polarity on something? Please.
Oh, that would be funny, man.
It's just someone can't you just reverse the polarity or something? Like that'd be funny, but it's just these little things that they did to really make it like building a world. You're kind of drawn into like what's going on. This is just like the other shows were stories.
Mm.
And this whole thing it doesn't build that.
There's not a lot.
It's not, it doesn't really. So the other ones were like people really invested in writing a series of stories within a world that's been very much developed and just it pulls you in. This show is like someone trying to write a shitty poem.
Yeah.
Like it's because poems are so short. It's just a little here, a little there. There's no depth. There's no feeling. It's just kind of like little bits of things.
Yeah. There's no depth to this at this point.
The art that they're trying to portray in it is just, it doesn't work. You're not
weak.
gonna. It's weak. Yeah.
I made a mistake.
There's no investment.
Yeah, that's true too. I made a mistake regarding the ship. It's not a Klingon. It's a Romulan ship. These are the pictures from the original series.
Oh yeah, that's why I got confused. Like, what are you talking about, Klingon ship?
Yeah, my mistake.
Yeah, so those have have been there since Enterprise. Enterprise actually showed the same one.
Right.
But it's funny. So you see, if you go back.
Oh, sorry. Let me put it back. Yeah.
So if you look the bottom left,
this one. This is Next Generation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. Where did those go?
Yeah. Why are you digging up this? One of these.
Because those were like basically Enterprise and original series, which makes sense. It's period specific or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you just anyways, it was just like
yeah, my mistake on that. I always get those things confused, but I do remember seeing that ship in the original series. Like, oh yeah, okay, they're throwing some member berries in there, but I think we're on time, man. I think we're doing good.
We're good. So
I think so. So let's maybe bring it home.
Yeah. Anything you wanted to add quick before we head out?
No. Looking forward to the show next week. And thank you.
Any word on Robert Frank?
No. I haven't honestly sent a message out to him yet. And he's been sick. So I was kind of hoping he gets better first before.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was waiting for him to. I'm listening to the podcast, and he's still on the mend, but he sounds like he's in better sorts now. So I'll send a message out to him, and we'll get that sorted.
All right, man. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Of course, do check out our previous episodes. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, follow both of us on social media, which is below, of course, and then check out the links we have below for social media as well as our crap, I got to do this at the beginning. Our subscribe star.
Yes, that's right.
So yeah, thank you for joining us, and we will of course see everyone next week.
Thanks for watching, everyone.